We're here at the IAS meeting in Kuala Lumpur with Aziza Ahmed, and she is with Northeastern University, which is in Boston, Massachusetts. And you are legally, you're going to cover the legal aspects of discrimination and so forth. And you covered that in this morning and then again in the press conference where I think you brought to the table a lot of very important issues and some of the ways to deal with some of this issue, and also some of the fights that have to be fought.
Right. And
probably will have to forever be fought.
Yeah.
I know how we deal with that, and it just seems to come in waves. You think, oh, I thought we covered that, and now we're back with it again.
Yeah.
So kind of tell us the background and what got you headed in this direction.
Yeah, so I became very interested in this issue about 13 years ago when I started doing HIV prevention work with sex workers in Johannesburg. And one of the things I learned immediately was because sex work was a criminal behavior, it gave the police quite a lot of license to harass the sex workers who we were working with. And I spent a lot of time spent considerable time negotiating with the police, you know, to leave us so we could do our work, etc. And it made me really realize, you know, why it's important to look at the law in the context of public health programming, that a lot of the laws we have are actually impeding and the way the laws are implemented, and as well as the attitudes people have to the communities we work with, are actually implementing our ability to, affecting our ability to implement good public health programming.
We had yesterday the program on the high-level discussion about drug use and so forth. We had one of the police chiefs that was talking about not actually following the law, but being a little bit soft on it, and that because there's only so much enforcement you can do.
Exactly.
There's so many people you can fill in a jail, and where do you really want to put your time?
Exactly.
And maybe do you do any desensitization on the fact that you know, think about if you were in their shoes type of thing? Do you do that at all with police departments? And
yeah, so I don't directly do that, but I do think that's an important piece of the project. I mean, there are a lot of organizations that do. So one organization that I have done some research with in partnership with them is an organization called Sangram, run by a woman named Mina Seishu, and they've done an amazing job. They're a group of sex workers, and they've done an amazing job liaising with local police to sort of reset the equilibrium between the police and the sex workers so that everyone can collaborate and work together, so that the police can protect the sex workers instead of sort of go after and persecute sex workers. And certainly that's the case. Some of the more successful interventions have brought the police on board and sort of taken the police on as partners. And we see this also in the context of criminal laws dealing with HIV transmission and exposure. One of the initiatives that's gotten quite a lot of positive attention has been around changing or offering prosecutorial guidelines to prosecutors so that they know they're better equipped to work with people who have HIV and might be getting prosecuted under the state laws.
Regarding disclosure.
Regarding disclosure.
So you do work in around the world, but you do also do work in the United States.
Yes.
What can you tell me about some of the challenges that you faced? I'm sure the disclosure issues is one of the issues.
Yeah, disclosure is one of the issues. Some of the other issues I work on are looking specifically at what's going on with sex workers in the United States. So I'm currently working on a sort of a paper and some research with two collaborators, one at the U.S. Sex Worker Project, and which is based at the Urban Justice Center, and another independent consultant named Anna Forbes. And the three of us are looking at how criminal laws on sex work and criminal laws on HIV transmission and exposure sort of interact to create this quagmire for sex workers trying to navigate themselves through the law. So in some states, for example, if you have HIV and you're charged on a sex work offense, it might become an aggravated offense. So it might actually lead to a more complex situation. Another thing that's happening in the U.S., which I've worked on a bit, is around the condoms as evidence. So the fact that when sex workers get arrested, often the condoms that they're carrying are used as evidence against them in courts that they were actually sex workers. And this, of course, directly undermines any public health work that we would do with sex workers.
What other areas do you cover as far as discrimination and so forth that might be important to bring out, especially if it's in the United States?
Well, in the United States, there's a whole host of, I mean, there's almost not enough time to talk about all of the discrimination that goes on in the context of trying to do good HIV work. I mean, certainly the challenges facing injecting drug users, the inability to access safe syringe and needle exchange programs, the harassment of people trying to implement safe needle exchange programs, the constant and ongoing marginalization of sex workers, the prostitution-free zones that exist in Washington, D.C. And then some of it is just about the numbers. You know, we have an incredibly high HIV prevalence amongst Black MSM, for example, and we don't really get into the issues about why that is the case. And you know, when you're talking about prevalence of 40% and upwards, this is it's a huge deal, and we don't talk about it. It's not even in our, you know.
Well, some of us talk about it.
Some of us talk about it, but it certainly feels like not enough of us are talking about it. Yeah.
And it's kind of like unspoken.
Yeah.
But I think the important thing to do is to, do you have anything that you could bring to us as far as where does a person go to get more information if they want to approach dealing with some of these issues? Would they contact you, or is there like an organization? Yeah,
someone could contact me, absolutely. There are some very good organizations in the U.S. doing work on the criminalization of HIV transmission and exposure issue. In particular, the Center for HIV Law and Policy is one organization. Seropositive is another organization. There is a network of organizations under the broader umbrella of the Positive Justice Project that are working on trying to repeal some of these laws dealing with criminalization of HIV transmission and exposure. On sex work, there is the Sex Worker Project of the Urban Justice Center. And on women, for issues of women living with HIV and AIDS, there's a lot of organizations as well. So there's the U.S. Positive Women's Network, there's the International Community of Women Living with HIV and AIDS. In the D.C. area, there's the Women's Collective, and there are smaller organizations throughout the United States.
And these are we talking about organizations that are working just within their community, or are they national? I mean, you work internationally.
Yeah.
But I guess sometimes they cover national, but other times they are more of a local ASO AIDS service organization.
Yes, many times they're local AIDS service organizations. A lot of the legal organizations have to work in their own jurisdiction. So those would be very local organizations. And then some organizations exist to help empower individuals to sort of participate at the national and state level. So they might be doing a little bit of both in terms of advocacy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, before we leave, I just wanted to make sure that we covered everything that you needed to cover, because I know that there's a huge amount of, like you said, there's hundreds of things that we could talk about, but I think just getting a touch and a flavor with the challenges you face and others do, and certainly the community faces with covering these issues of stigma and so forth. Is there anything else you'd want to bring up?
Well, I think we have to really recognize how all of these laws are operating in the current political context, and we need to really be engaged about the politics of how HIV is being addressed, and we need to keep our eye on the public health outcomes, and with a sort of a human rights-based approach, with an approach that respects people and people's lives, and that's really how we need to go about thinking through some of the legal transformation that needs to occur.
Well, I thank you very much. I appreciate your time here, and I know that it's been a really busy day for you, and it's just the middle of the afternoon.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah.